Hi, everyone. My name is Simon Kent, and I'm an employment lawyer with Kent Employment Law in Vancouver. And with me today is Stephanie Cousineau from our Victoria office of Kent. And today we're going to talk about a hot topic, which is mandatory vaccinations. So it's about late December 2020 right now, and the vaccinations for COVID have started to roll out. And that's brought some inquiries from some of our employer clients around this whole issue of whether they're going to be permitted to require that employees receive the vaccination in order to continue to keep working. Both Stephanie and I have been reading a lot about this online. We've got our own thoughts, obviously, but it's always interesting to hear what our colleagues have to say. And I've been quite surprised by the diversity of opinions that are currently in the press on this topic. So I thought we'd just take a couple of minutes and kick around some of our initial thoughts on this. And I'm just going to kick the ball right across the screen to Stephanie and say, Stephanie, so when an employer client's calling you these days and saying, hey, Stephanie, am I going to be able to require vaccinations? What are you telling them?
I think that with what we know right now, with the state of the law right now, the easy answer is no. Because at this moment, the only thing that we can really fall back on is the closest analogy, the most similar case where, for example, in BC, they did try to make the seasonal flu shot mandated for all healthcare workers, and that didn't work. Some have come back and said that that analogy doesn't hold because COVID is so much more contagious. It's much more serious. But at the end of the day, it's also very serious to require that somebody put something into their body in order to have a job. So it's a tricky, tricky question.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And so what are the kinds of things you think that employers have to think about as we sort of move along the next 6 months? Because really, this is a question for the future. It's a question for when there's enough vaccines out there that one could go down to Shoppers Drug Mart and get them. But so let's look at the summer of 2021. And I'm an employer client. I'm coming to you and I'm saying, you know, I've got a situation here. I've got sort of a bullpen of workers. I really don't want anyone to be in that bullpen who hasn't had a vaccination. Stephanie, help me out. How am I going to make this work?
Well, the unfortunate, or maybe fortunate, depending on your opinion right now, for the employers, it would definitely be maybe too bad, but the state of the law as it is really would say that as long as there are other steps and measures that you could use to keep your workplace safe, the same sorts of mask wearing, social distancing that we've been using up until now, that people who can work from home do work from home, as long as there are reasonable alternatives that would still let you have a safe workplace. I just think that it would be really hard right now to say absolutely that you would be able to have the right to require this as a form of a requirement for law for having your job.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, okay. Then the last question is, I'm an employer and I say to you, okay, Stephanie, I understand you're saying I can't vaccinate or I can't mandate vaccination. Could I fire people who refuse to be vaccinated? What do you say about that?
Well, the long and the short of it is that an employer can at any time make staffing decisions and fire when they want to, as long as they do it right and according to the law. So the question would just be, would this be different from any other without cause dismissal? And the answer to that is it might be. It could be if an employee were to say, well, on health grounds or religious grounds, I cannot take this vaccine. That could mean that the employer could be opening themselves up to a human rights complaint against them. It's absolutely impossible to say, certainly, because we just don't know yet. But that would be the biggest place where I would have some concern for saying that you're going to outright fire somebody for not getting a vaccine.
Okay, so if a person then doesn't have a health concern or isn't denying the vaccination on religious grounds, I guess it is still a possibility to dismiss that person without cause, giving them sufficient notice and or severance. That could be the way this thing might roll out.
It sure could be. And I think that it's possible that if the law doesn't change for something like that, we might see a charter challenge relating to the state getting involved in somebody's body. It will be interesting to see. I mean, the charter really doesn't apply for private entities, but it's just such a substantial question that I think that there would be lawyers out there who would find ways to challenge something like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Stephanie. That's a very interesting topic, and it's going to continue to evolve over the next 6 months and maybe multiple years. So, thanks for joining us today to talk about that. And I think we should probably do a follow-up vaccination, a YouTube video in a few months and see where we're at then. So, does it sound like a plan to
How
you?
wrong we were.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon. Okay. Bye.